Hello, this is Vincent, and welcome to Dogma Discussions. Today I have another video for you. It's about the dogma of being submissive. Before that, though, I just want to say hit the like button, subscribe, click the notification bell next to the subscription so you can be notified when new videos come out. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Alrighty, here we go. Have you ever heard of the Christian dogma of submission? No? Well, it's an attitude that all Christians are supposed to adopt. And to whom do you submit? Oh, to God, of course. The idea is rooted in the concept of modesty. Proverbs says that God has no use for the arrogant, but favors the humble. The New Testament writer James references this verse directly before commanding this: to humble yourself before God. And what's humility? It's the act of downplaying your own importance. Ever wonder why certain Christian denominations have you kneel? It emphasizes your subservient position. Yet, it's more than just a physical act. It involves submitting your very sense of identity to God. And what's the problem with that? Do you have to ask? When one is trained, especially from a young age, to think in a submissive mindset, it can affect your ability to stand up for yourself and live your own life. How? It places people in mental servitude, strips away their individuality, and defines their self-worth only in regards to their relationship to God. In the Old Testament book of Job, a man named Eliphaz says, "Submit to God and be at peace with him. In this way, prosperity will come to you." For those of you unfamiliar with Job, he is a man devoted to God, whom the Almighty turns over to Satan. The devil is then free to destroy Job's life in order to see if he will turn against God. Seeing Job destitute, Eliphaz lays out a litany of sins which he speculates that Job must have committed in order to have been brought so low. So he urges him to repent and submit to God. It is the same approach that many Christians use today, that if things are not going well in your life, then you must have done something to cause your current misfortune. Yet, everyone's life has its ups and downs. Thus, the belief that downturns in your life are a punishment is a form of mental slavery. It shames and thus prevents you from engaging your critical thinking skills and problem solving your way out of difficulties. Another form of mental slavery is telling a person to endure disrespect. I learned this in Sunday school. I am about 7 years old at the time, and Mrs. Jameson, our teacher, is giving us a lesson on the Beatitudes. These verses are from the Sermon on the Mount, wherein Jesus names many different groups, which he considers blessed. This is hilariously memorialized in Monty Python's Life of Brian, in which one of the crowd mistakes "blessed are the peacemakers" for "blessed are the cheesemakers," and then goes on to ask what's so great about cheesemakers. Anyway, back to my experience with the Beatitudes. Let me take you to that moment. To her credit, Mrs. Jameson is doing her best to recast the blessed groups in a language a child can understand. The poor in spirit are referred to as sad. The meek are called quiet people, the merciful, caring, etc. I'm sitting on the floor with the other children listening for my group, but don't hear it listed. I find this confusing because surely God knows what I'm enduring in my daily life and is looking out for me too. When the lesson ends, I am frustrated. I wait for the other children to file out for church. And then I approach her. Mrs. Jameson? Yes, dear. How may I help you? She smiles warmly. Well, I didn't hear anything about kids who get bullied being blessed. Oh, no, dear. I'm sorry to hear that's happening to you. It's okay, Mrs. Jameson. Bigger kids pick on me because I'm small. But when I punch them in the stomach, they leave me alone. Her smile fades. Well, Vincent, we don't want to fight. It's not good. But why? Sometimes I fight for other kids who are picked on too. I understand, dear, but doesn't Jesus tell us to turn the other cheek? Remember? I look down and don't respond. She places a hand under my chin and gently lifts my face to look at hers. Vincent, if someone hits you on one cheek, she lightly pats my face, then you turn your other towards them. But if I do this, they'll hit me again. Maybe not, she says. When we submit to God, He protects us. Try it. It shows strength, and it's also Jesus' command. Now let's move along to church. Needless to say, I am unconvinced. And as I grow older, I realize that only people in a servile position would submit in such a way and let someone strike them. Thus, the commandment puts you in the mindset of a slave, which hampers your ability to protect yourself. Being submissive also strips a person of his or her individuality. As Jesus languishes in agony on the cross, he says, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. Obviously, Jesus' will is subordinate to the Almighty Father's, and Jesus is the example we are to follow. Not my will, but yours. My friend Angelica had this perspective thrust upon her. Seeking a direction in life, she was lured into leaving the country and joining a 3-year missionary commitment in India. During her time away, we received many letters about her work for God and how happy she was. Yet, when she returned, we found someone whose spirit had been broken. Why? As a missionary, she had not been valued as an individual, but merely as a cog in the machine, and treated as such. Her own need for a sense of self-worth, for her own spiritual nurturing, for the desire to feel that she, Angelica, had something unique to add, were denigrated as selfish. When she protested, her overlords criticized her for lacking humility, saying that she should be like Jesus, sacrificing her will to the will of God. Sufficiently guilted, she stayed and endured the mental and emotional abuse. Once she returned to the States, she left the church, and with her confidence restored, took charge of her own life. Yet, what about those so brainwashed by the dogma that they don't realize what's occurring until it's too late? That's what happened to my friend Jamie. Brought up in the church, he married right out of high school and had 3 children by the age of 22. His wife, who was very devout, was also raised in the faith and expected him to be a godly man. His status in his home depended on living up to her image. At times when his faith wavered, she insisted that he submit to God, or else she could not trust him. Wanting to please his wife and afraid of losing his status, he did the best he could. Sometimes, though, he was tempted to go out and drink with his coworkers. Yet, gripped by guilt, he would resist, and before going home from work, would sit in his car, grasp his Bible desperately, and quote the book of James. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Many sleepless nights he would rise and reread Romans, reminding himself that if he let his mind be governed by the desires of the flesh, that leads to death, because it's hostile to God and does not submit to God's law. Not wanting to disappoint his wife nor be defiant to God, but seeing that his work friends were not bad people, he felt torn between 2 worlds. Finally, he broke down and began going out drinking. Within months, his marriage fell apart. His wife left him. Jamie pleaded with her to understand, and when she refused to listen, he descended into alcoholism to the point he didn't see his children anymore. The pressure of having to be the righteous man, the person whose status depended on his relationship to God, was too much, and it destroyed him. So, what is the point of life if we can't live it authentically? If we can't stand up for ourselves? If we're told to be passive and wait for God, instead of using our own wonderful mind to strategize, to take what opportunities are available to us? How many years do people waste, like Angelica, trying to fit into someone else's mold, eventually losing ourselves? She was told to submit her will to God, yet our will is the expression of our individuality, and individuals with a strong sense of self are difficult to control, which is why the missionary leaders wanted to take that away from her. How many people destroy themselves, like Jamie, because their own self-worth depends on their perceived relationship to God? If you're submitting your will to dogma, you are not in control of your life. And if you do this, you will look back on a life not worth living, a life unfulfilling, a life your true self never wanted. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening. Again, please hit the like button and subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll talk to you next time. This is Vincent. Goodbye.